principles prepared by the Learner-Centered Principles Work Group of the American Psychological Association, Card of Educational Affairs, or BEA, on November 1997. Psychology has greatly shaped education by deepening our understanding of learning, development, and motivation. Recent advances in thinking, memory, and motivation highlight the need for learner-centered models to address issues like dropouts and low performance. The Learner-Centered Psychological Principles, or LPS, developed by the American Psychological Association, or APA, are based on over a century of research. These principles integrate multiple fields of psychology, emphasize active and reflective learning, and aim to improve schooling, mental health, productivity, and lifelong learning. By applying sound psychological knowledge, educators and psychologists can create a new vision of schooling that enhances both education and human development. So hello everyone, I am Chalmers B. Jimenez from Study Hub 4, and today I will talk about cognitive and metacognitive factors in learning, which are part of the learner-centered psychological principles. These focus on what happens inside the learner's mind rather than just habits or outside influences. Have you ever wondered why some students learn faster when they connect lessons or in real life, like pizza slices for fractions, while others struggling? The answer lies on the cognitive and metacognitive factors in learning. These factors focus on how students think, set goals, and connect knowledge. First, learning works best when it's intentional. When it's intentional and meaningful. For example, instead of memorizing the water cycle, a student who explains it in their own words understand it better. Second, learning requires goals. Students who sets a goal to improve a reading may start with short stories, then move on to the novels for deeper analysis. Third, knowledge grows when linked to what students already know. For instance, learning fractions become easier when connected in real-life experience like dividing a pizza. In short, these factors are important because they help learner become active and goal-directed and responsible skills that supports lifelong learning. So learning isn't just about memorizing, it's about thinking, setting goals, and making real-life connections.
So next is strategic thinking. So strategic thinking means using different ways of thinking and problem solving to reach learning goals. A successful learner doesn't just stick to one method. They know many strategies and can choose the best one for the situation. For example, when solving a math problem, they might try drawing, making table, or breaking the problem into smaller steps. They also reflect on what works for them, ask for guidance for the teachers, and learn from others. So a teacher can help students by guiding them to discover and improve these strategies so they can handle more complex tasks. Next is thinking about thinking. So this is when a learner think on how they are learning. It's like being aware of your own brain while studying. Successful learners can set realistic goals, choose the right strategies to study, and check if they're making progress. If they notice a problem like strategy not working, they can adjust or try another method or even change their goal. For example, if a student is reading but doesn't understand they might stop and reread, ask a question, or look for another resource. Teachers can encourage this by teaching students the plan or monitor or reflect on their learning process. So next is context of learning. So learning is shaped by environment around the students. It doesn't just happen in the mind, but it is influenced by culture, technology, teaching methods, and the classroom atmosphere. For instance, students may learn different depending on their cultural background, their access to technology, or the teaching styles they are exposed to. A positive and supportive classroom makes students feel safe and motivated to learn, while a stressful one can block learning. Teachers need to use methods and tools that is fit to the students' abilities and experience so that learning becomes more effective. That's all. Thank you.
My name is Rana Bea F. Barco, the third reporter from Study Hub 4, and the next psychological principle I will be sharing is the importance of understanding the motivational and affective factors, especially for learners. Understanding motivational and affective factors is important because they greatly influence how people learn and perform. Motivation drives learners to put in effort, stay focused, and persist even when tasks are challenging. Affective factors such as emotions, attitudes, and self-confidence affect how engaged and comfortable learners feel in learning process. The seventh principle is motivational and emotional influences on learning. Motivation is important as it plays a role of how much and how well students learn. It is influenced by emotional states, beliefs, interests, goals, and habits of thinking. Positive emotion such as curiosity, excitement, and enjoyment that improves focus, memory, and persistence, while negative emotions like fear, stress, or frustration can dull concentration and lower performance. Learners' beliefs about their own abilities, such as confidence and growth mindset, also affect how willing they are to try and keep going despite difficulties. So, when students feel surrounded with supportive environment that builds confidence and connects lessons to real-life relevance, they feel motivated and more likely engaged with deep learning and aim for meaningful goals. The eighth principle is intrinsic motivation to learn. Intrinsic refers to a part of a thing that a person have. It describes qualities or motivations that comes from their own factors. It drives motivation to be interested in learning. Basically, motivation comes from within the learners and is driven by curiosity, creativity, and the desire to learn for personal growth and satisfaction. It is strengthened when tasks are designed to be appropriately challenging, not to cause boredom, and not too difficult to cause frustration. Relevance to students' personal interest makes learning more meaningful, while opportunities for choice and autonomy promote ownership and responsibility. When students are intrinsically motivated, they are engaged more deeply, think more critically, and persist longer, leading to lifelong learning habits that go beyond grades or external rewards. Ninth principle is effects of motivation on effort. Motivation strongly influences the effort and how the students invest in learning, especially when mastering complex knowledge and skills that require extended practice. Motivated learners are more likely or willing to stay focused, practice regularly, and overcome challenges, especially when they have goals of achieving something. They approach difficult tasks when persistence, knowing that effort leads to progress. Without motivation, effort usually depends on external pressure or coercion, which may result in shallow learning and negative attitudes. On the other hand, when motivation is genuine, either intrinsic or supportive, positively by external recognitions, students exert consistent effort, engage actively, and achieve stronger, long-lasting mastery of skills and knowledge. So overall, learning about motivation is important because it shows how emotions, interests, beliefs, and effort all work together to influence student success. Positive emotions and supportive environments encourage focus and persistence, while intrinsic motivation, driven by curiosity and personal interest, makes learning more meaningful and enjoyable. At the same time, motivation fuels the effort needed to master complex skills, helping students stay committed even when challenges arise. By understanding these influences, teachers can design lessons that engage learners more deeply, and students can develop stronger habits that lead to long-term growth and achievement.
I am Chervis Joy Balingit from Study Hub 4, and today I will be discussing about the individual differences factor. There are three different factors. The first is individual in learning, second, learning diversity, and the last one is standards and assessment. When we say individual differences, we mean the unique ways in which each learner thinks, understands, and performs. Not all students learn in the same way or at the same speed. Some differences include learner styles. Some students are visual learners, others are auditory, and some learn best by hand-on practice. Intelligence and ability. There are gifted learners, average learners, and those who may need extra support. Interest and motivation. A student who enjoys interest and motivation. A student who enjoys science may learn faster in that subject than in math. Background experiences, culture, family, and environment also affects how a learner understands lesson. Because of these differences, teacher must adapt their methods or example. They can use group work, visual aids, storytelling, or technology to reach different types of learners. The importance of this is recognizing individual differences is important because it promotes fairness, help every learner succeed, and make education more exclusive. It reminds us that no student is less capable, they just have different way of learning. In short, individual differences in learning show us that education should not be one size fits all. Instead, it should respect and support each learner uniqueness. And the last one is the standards and assessment. First, let's define standard. Standards are clear expectations or goals of what students should know and be able to do at a certain grade or level. They serve as a guide for both teachers and learners. For example, in the math, a standards may state that students should be able to solve word problem using fraction. Next is assessment. Assessment is the process of measuring how well students meet those standards. It comes in many forms: quizzes, projects, performance tasks, oral recitation, or even group activities. Standard and assessment work hand in hand. Standards tell us what to learn, while assessment check how much we have learned. Teachers use assessment results to improve their teaching, while students use them to understand and their strengths and areas for growth. Important of these two are because they ensure quality education, they promote fairness, set clear goals, and help learners become more accountable for their progress. In short, standards are the goal and assessment is the measurement. Together, they guide teaching and learning to achieve success. That's all for the individual differences